Hello students, this is Miss Sonia and today we are going to start heat and thermodynamics. But before starting the chapter, let me tell you what all things are there in the chapter. In the heat chapter, you will be having the mode of heat transfer, that is conduction, convection and radiation. In conduction, we'll be discussing about thermal conductivity. In convection, we'll be discussing about the natural phenomenon that are occurring due to the process of convection. And in radiation, we'll be discussing what is radiation and what happens to a body, how the body is emitting radiation, and what laws are governing radiation. And at last, we'll be discussing what is Newton's law of cooling. So let us start. What is heat? Heat is nothing but a form of energy that flows due to temperature difference. So we'll be discussing what are the three modes of heat transfer, that is conduction, convection and radiation. So what is conduction? Conduction is nothing but the mode of heat transfer in which the particles are not actually transferring, rather they are transferring heat by the help of free electrons. The free electrons are transferring the heat and the particles remain in the same position. Whatever position they are, they will be staying in their main position. Without the transfer of particles, heat is transferred due to free electrons. More is the number of free electrons, better the conductor will transfer heat. That's why they are called good conductors. And if less number of free electrons are present, then it is a bad conductor because the electrons are not available to transfer heat. So this transfer occurs due to the collision of one electron with another electron, and during the collision they transfer energy, and this energy is transferred from hot body or hot end of one side of the conductor to the cold end of the conductor. So this is what is conduction. What is convection? In convection, the particles actually move. They move actually and transfer heat from one part to another. So this is convection. Convection is nothing but the mode of heat transfer in which particles move and transfer heat from one part of the body to another part of the body. Example, boiling of water. So when the water is boiled, the bottom portion of the water will go, the particles will go to the upper position, and the upper portion particles will come down and convert the cold water into hot water, and this is called convection, in which convection currents are produced. So natural phenomena that obey or is governed by convection is nothing but ocean currents, sea breeze and land breeze, also trade winds. These are natural phenomena governed by convection. And the third type of heat transfer is nothing but radiation. In radiation, directly from a hot body to the cold body, heat is transferred without any intervening medium. So, it does not require any medium of transfer. Therefore, it is traveling from hot body to cold body in form of electromagnetic waves. And electromagnetic waves do not require a medium to travel. That's why heat is transferred in form of electromagnetic waves from hot body to cold body. So these are the three types of mode of heat transfer: conduction, convection and radiation. So let us discuss it one by one. What is conduction and what is the mathematics behind conduction, and what is convection and what is radiation. What is thermal conduction and what is the coefficient of thermal conductivity we will be discussing now. So whenever there is a rod and there is a temperature difference between the two ends of the rod, heat will flow. So how much heat is flowing depends upon multiple physical quantities, and those physical quantities are that the heat transferring will depend upon the area of cross section, it will depend upon the time of flow, it will depend upon the temperature difference theta 1 and theta 2 between the two ends of the rod, and inversely it will depend upon the length of the rod. Smaller will be the length, greater will be the amount of heat flow. So the heat will flow until and unless a steady state is achieved. What is a steady state? A steady state is that the both ends, means both the ends of the conductor will have or reach the same temperature. Until and unless the steady state is reached, it will flow. The amount of heat flow is therefore depending upon area, time, temperature difference and the length of the conductor. If I remove the proportionality symbol, I will add a constant called as coefficient of thermal conductivity or conduction. So coefficient of thermal conduction K is nothing but, if I take unit area per unit length in a unit time for a unit temperature difference, K will be nothing but the amount of heat flowing in a unit area in a unit time for a unit temperature difference per unit length. So coefficient of thermal conduction is nothing but amount of heat flow for all the unit areas, times, temperature difference and per unit length. So if I divide this T this side, dQ by T is nothing but heat current. Heat current is nothing but K into A theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by L. So this physical quantity, that is theta 1 minus theta 2 by L, that is the temperature difference between the two ends per unit length, is nothing but known as temperature gradient. The variation of temperature per unit length of any rod is nothing but temperature gradient. We can also write it as d theta by dx. So heat current can be written as Ka d theta by dx, where theta 1 is at higher temperature and theta 2 is at lower temperature. So this is what is heat current and amount of heat flowing through a rod. Now let us discuss how to find the coefficient of thermal conductivity experimentally. That is Searle's method of finding K. So K is nothing but amount of heat flowing per unit area, per unit length for a unit area, for a unit time, for a unit temperature difference. And this K can be found out experimentally by Searle's method. What is it? At one end we are providing steam, at the other end we are providing water. So whatever amount of heat is flowing through the rod is insulated, and the amount of heat flowing through the rod will be received by water and its temperature will rise. So that's why the amount of heat conducted is nothing but the amount of heat absorbed by water. So I have 4 thermometers to measure the temperatures. So T1, T2 will help us to tell about the amount of heat flowing through the conductor, and T3, T4 thermometers will help us to know what is the rise in temperature of water. So K can be found out by using this expression. So amount of heat flowing per unit time, if I take Ka theta 1 minus theta 2 by D, for the same amount of time, if I take the amount of heat absorbed by water, that can be mc delta theta. Delta theta is the rise in temperature of water and C is nothing but specific heat of water. So finally K can be found out as mc delta theta of water divided by Ka theta 1 minus theta 2 divided by d. This is the amount of or the value of thermal conductivity for the given rod. So the SI unit of conductivity or coefficient of conductivity is nothing but watt meter inverse Kelvin inverse, or CGS unit can be written as calorie centimeter inverse per second Celsius inverse, and 1 calorie centimeter inverse second inverse Celsius inverse is equals to 149.6 watt meter inverse Kelvin inverse, and the dimension of K is nothing but M1 L1 T minus 3 T minus 3 K minus 1. So this is about coefficient of thermal conductivity whenever heat is flowing through a given rod. Now let us discuss what is convection. As I said, convection is nothing but heat transfer where the particles actually move, or there is actually motion of particles occurring in the fluid. The fluid can be a liquid or a gas. Conduction can occur in metals and convection occurs in fluids, that is liquids and gases. So one of the best example is land breeze and sea breeze. So at the night time we have land breeze at night. Why? Because at night the land gets cooled faster as compared to the sea. So the air from sea goes up due to the heat, and as the air from the sea goes up, breeze or air from land rushes to take its place. That's why there will be land breeze. At daytime, what happens? The land gets heated faster and the air from land goes up, and the cold air from the sea tries to take its place, rushes to take its place, and that's why we have sea breeze. This is one of the examples of convection current. So this occurs at night, land breeze, and this occurs at day, the sea breeze. Other examples of convection current is nothing but trade winds on monsoons, winds that occur, or winds that carry lot of moisture from the equator to the northern and southern hemisphere. So this is a global wind that occurs, large scale phenomenon occurring, and also ocean currents. Ocean currents are also one of the examples of convection current or convection, in which the cold water or the cold ocean water from the poles come and rushes and takes the place of the hot water at the equator. That's why producing ocean currents. Now let us discuss what is radiation or radiant energy. So radiation is nothing but the heat or energy emitted from a body. This energy is in form of electromagnetic wave. So radiant energy is nothing but the energy emitted from the surface of a body due to temperature difference. And what is radiant power or emissive power of any body? It is nothing but amount of energy emitted from the surface per unit area per unit time. So if there is a surface, if energy is radiated per unit area per unit time, then that is called radiant power. And radiant power or radiant emissive power is nothing but the the integration or the sum total of all the spectral emissive powers, means the emissive power of particular wavelength range. E lambda is nothing but spectral emissive power. And what does this mean? Means the amount of energy radiated from a surface of a unit. A body is radiating ultraviolet radiation, then it can radiate infrared radiation. Then we find out spectral radiation of the particular given wavelength range, and the total emissive power of the body will be integration of spectral emissive power. So all the wavelength ranges, if we integrate or sum total, then it will give us the total emissive power of the body. And please remember that a black body or a perfect black body has the maximum emissive power. It is the body which can emit maximum energy from its surface. So what is a black body or a perfect black body? It is a body which absorbs all the amount of radiation incident on it. So amount of radiation incident on it, it absorbs it all and then slowly emits it, and the maximum amount of energy radiated is only by a perfect black body. So whenever we compare a body's emissivity or emissive power, we compare it with black body. That's why emissivity of any body is nothing but emissive power of any body divided by emissive power of any black body. What is this emissive power? Emissive power is nothing but emissive power or the amount of energy radiated per unit time for a perfect black body. So here is a diagram which shows a construction of perfect black body, in which Ferri had taken a metallic sphere with a very narrow hole, and it's blackened inside, and radiation is incident inside it. Because of the small triangular shape, the radiation gets reflected multiple times here inside the black body or the metallic ball, and is unable to escape through this metallic ball. That's why this is nothing but an example of a perfect black body, where radiation is absorbed and is not escaping, and slowly this radiation will be emitted by this black body from its surface for a given unit time. So what is Wien's law? Wien's law is nothing but whenever a body is emitting energy, it is emitting radiation, then it is radiating energy or radiation of a given wavelength that is inversely proportional to the absolute temperature of the body. So whenever the temperature of the body will increase, the amount of energy will increase, but it will shift towards the shorter wavelength range. So if the body's temperature is increasing slowly, it will start shifting the radiation from infrared radiation example to ultraviolet radiation. So the wavelength will shift, and the graph that we can draw for this law is nothing but the energy radiated graph will slowly keep on increasing towards the shorter wavelength range. So you will see, if lambda 1 is the wavelength for the given energy, this graph for a given temperature T1, slowly the maximum energy shifting towards the shorter wavelength range. Now the wavelength is reduced for higher temperature T2, and slowly it will keep on decreasing. So if I draw it neatly, how can I draw it? The graph will be like this. This is when temperature is less. This is lambda 1 wavelength. Then for the body, emitted energy is increasing for a given temperature T2, greater temperature. Again, the emitted radiation shifts to the shorter wavelength. Similarly, as the energy increases or the temperature of the body increases, the wavelength shifts to the lesser region. That is the reason why lambda m, that is the wavelength of the maximum energy emitted is inversely proportional to the absolute temperature of the body. So if I remove the proportionality symbol, I have a constant called as Wien's constant. And what is Wien's constant? The value of Wien's constant, it is nothing but 2.9 into 10 to the power minus 3 meter Kelvin. So this is Wien's law or Wien's displacement law. So for example, if I say the temperature of sun is 6100 Kelvin, so what is the wavelength of the energy or emitted radiation? It is nothing but lambda m is equals to 2.9 into 10 to the power minus 3 meter Kelvin whole divided by 6100 Kelvin. So I will get around 4753 angstrom of wavelength of the emitted radiation. This is the radiation of the, this is the wavelength of the emitted radiation. This is Wien's displacement law. And next let us read what is Stephen's law. Stephen's law is nothing but it talks about what is the relationship between energy emitted from a body, the amount of energy emitted from a body per unit area per unit time, and the temperature of the body. So the amount of energy radiated per unit area per unit time is actually proportional to the fourth power of absolute temperature of the body. That is, if I remove the proportionality symbol, I'll have E is equals to sigma T to the power 4, where sigma is known as Stephen's constant and the emitted radiation per unit area per unit time is equals to sigma T to the power 4, where sigma value is nothing but 5.67 into 10 to the power minus 8 watt per meter square per Kelvin to the power 4. This is the amount of energy radiated per unit area of a given black body. And this is also known as this law, Stephen's law, known as Stephen's-Boltzmann law. The next concept of this chapter is Newton's law of cooling. So here in Newton's law of cooling, we will see how cooling takes place in a body and how the temperature difference between the body and the surrounding affects the cooling of the body. So according to this law, the loss of heat, so that is dq by dt, the rate of loss of heat from a body is directly proportional to the temperature difference between the body and the surrounding. If T is the temperature of the body and T0 is the temperature of the surrounding, then the rate of loss of heat is directly proportional to the temperature difference. So I can write this as minus dq by dt is equals to K T minus T0, where K is a constant. Also this can be written as heat is directly proportional to the change in temperature of the body. The loss of heat is directly proportional to the change in temperature of the body. I can also write this as minus dt by dt, the rate of change of temperature of the body, loss of temperature of the body or decrease of temperature of the body is equals to K T minus T0, where T is the temperature or average temperature of the body and T0 is the temperature of the surrounding. So this is what is Newton's law of cooling. That is, the rate of loss of heat of body is directly proportional to the temperature difference between the body and the surrounding. So regarding Wien's law, Stephen's law and Newton's law, we will be doing numericals in the next video.